want to be when you grow up? The question sparks inspiring and expensive answers in our children, like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a canine psychiatrist. But when I hear the question, I think back to my childhood. See, I liked to live in fear. I liked to experience fear and do things that other people were afraid of. A sledding hill is not a sledding hill unless there are 30 trees on it. And I also liked to be creative. I would come up with things and a way to experience fear that other people hadn't thought of. And third, I wanted to see my name on the silver screen. Contest masters, fellow Toastmasters, and invited guests, I wanted to be a stuntman. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, his poor mother. If you think little boys are rambunctious, wild, crazy, loud, for my birthday, I got a laminated copy of the family insurance card. You know the old Western movies where a guy would jump off a front porch and land on the back of a horse? I used to climb on the roof of the garage and try and jump on the dog. I did. And it normally felt me landing on the floor going, Duffy! I told you to stay! But you can't just jump into stuntmanship, you have to work up to it. So in high school, I got a job at our local fast food establishment. And in the middle of the kitchen, there was this very large stainless steel grill. It was gas powered, it was extremely hot, and it was a conveyor belt. So burgers, you put them in on one side, and it would travel through and get cooked on the other side. And I thought, here's my first opportunity. I started asking questions. How long does it take a burger to get from one end to the other? How hot does it actually get? And then the manager's personal favorite was, can we take the panels off the front and the back and make the space bigger so something larger than a burger would fit? Of course, he's like, why do you ask? I said, well, I'm saving my money from here for a flame retardant suit. The next time it's really dead in here, I'm going to put it on and go through the broiler. He really didn't like that idea. And this is my first opportunity, so I got aggressive. For a manager of a burger joint, you're a real chicken. He, of course, told me I needed to turn in my uniform at the end of the day. In which case I said, fine, have it your way. Now, my senior year in high school, our family and I went out to Arizona to visit some relatives. And while we were there, we went to a place called the Old Tucson Studios. And this was a place where they recreated movies from the Old West. They had a gunfight in the middle of the street. They did a saloon fight where they actually tossed a guy through the plate glass window of the saloon. And the best part, they had a guy jump off the front porch onto the back of a waiting horse. I'm like, this is great. And then I found out, right after you got through the gift shop, there was a school for stuntmanship. They actually taught you how to do this. But at this point, I just figured, you just do crazier and wilder things and until you got a corporate sponsorship like Evel Knievel, you know? Today's jump over the Grand Canyon is sponsored by SBLI Life Insurance. Well, what happened was, I went into the school, to the admissions office, and I talked to a man named Russell. And Russell, in his best Southern drawl, looked at me and said, son, your best bet is to get yourself an undergraduate degree. That way, if something happens to you on your first stunt, you have something to fall back on. That's how he said it, fall back on. You got it. This would probably deter most people, not me. I shook his hand, said, thank you, I'll see you in 4 years. My mother, of course, gave him this huge, embarrassing hug. So I head off to college, and college became a real problem. And not just because colleges have very large buildings. And I was in Newport, Rhode Island off of Cliff Walk. But when you're looking at jumping off buildings and being on fire and driving motorcycles up ramps, what holds your attention in college? What's the most dangerous major you can choose? Actually, I chose applied mathematics. And my thought was very simple. A lot of these really complex stunts require complex calculations. Like falling requires terminal velocity. You need to know wind resistance on the way up. You need to know physics equations where you're going to land. And I thought, hey, if I can do these equations myself, then I don't have to rely on somebody else. So if something happens to me, it's my fault. Just picture that for a second, just jumping off a 10-story building. I forgot to carry the tube! My senior year in college, I was getting much better at these equations. And I decided I wanted to figure out just what Russell was talking about. What would actually happen to me? So I get the calculator up, so I'm figuring, okay, falling from a 10-story building, terminal velocity, speed of gravity will carry the tube. Okay, so the force I would hit the ground would equal certain death. Wait, I'm 21 years old. Certain death? Wait a minute. So I take a step back and look at my decision, what I was going to do. And I'll look at some of the other stunts. In order for me to do some of the other stunts that I wanted to do, like the flaming tunnel of death could only be 15 feet long. Me traveling, of course, at a minimum safe distance of 55 miles an hour. It just was not going to work. So I made a decision at that time that stuntmanship was really not for me. And it's taken a long time in my life to look at what I thought as a kid. See, I still like to experience fear, but now I experience the fear of standing up in front of a crowd. And I still like to be creative, but I be creative in some of the things I talk about, and sometimes taking on topics that other people are afraid to touch. And I may never see my name on the silver screen, but I do get to see it every couple of weeks on a written agenda. I have fulfilled my childhood dream by being a Toastmaster.